Thank you very much and welcome back to the program, Marshall. We're delighted to have you on today as well.
Thanks, Francisque. What is this, year 4, 5? I don't know.
Year 4.
This
Year
is
4.
building a lot of momentum. You and the EPARTRADE and racer team and speed sport team should be very proud here.
Well, thank you, Marshall. You know, coming from you means a lot, and you're right. The lineup of speakers this year is absolutely incredible, and we thanked John Doonan earlier today, as well as Greg from SRO, because they were right there at the beginning when we did our first one, and to see what it has become, and also the reach we are having now. We basically have people watching us from all over the world, not only on Zoom but also on YouTube, on the different social media platforms, as well on racer.com and speedsport.com. So each and every one of you out there watching, please share the links with your industry friends. I mean, this is an incredible week and everybody in the industry from anywhere in the world should be watching. Jay Frye, the president of INDYCAR, is with us. So Marshall, you take on.
Look at that, Jay Frye. How are you?
Hey, Marshall. Good about you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're not late at all. I'm doing super well. And when we're done here, going to spend some time speaking with Susie Weldon and her son Sebastian, who just won his first open wheel championship. So it might be the off season. December might already be here, Jay. Things aren't slowing down. Why don't we start there? So IndyCar season ended early September. In theory, nothing's going on, right? Things are boring. Things are quiet. You're well rested and tanned.
Thank you.
More like the opposite is true. Non-stop hybrid testing for next year's brand new engine format. Even this week, you've been busy at the IndyCar base in Indianapolis, meeting with drivers. Why don't we start there, Jay? Folks might not know that IndyCar does things a bit differently than some other series. You're in constant engagement with your drivers, seeking input from them, advice from them, and so on. What do you do when you ask them to come in and meet with them here during the off season? What is this exchange all about?
Well, it's pretty cool. So, yeah, well, thank you again for having me today. If you think of really our busiest time of the year is from the last race of the year. So from Laguna through like basically Thanksgiving or like now, right? So a lot of times people ask, which is funny for all of us, what do you do in the off season? Well, there really is no off season. I guess you would just say there's not a racing season. So we're not currently racing, but there's lots of things going on. So what we do, our off-season meeting cadence is we always meet with the team managers, usually 2 or 3 weeks after the season ends because everything's fresh. Go through a bunch of things with them. Some's answered, some we wait for the drivers. So the next meeting is then with the drivers, which we're having this Thursday. Go through a lot of things with them, solve some things, come up with some different things. And then ultimately in first part of the year, then we'll meet with the owners and we just go through kind of the whole package. So yes, we started this, I guess in 2016, 2017. When we come up with a 5-year plan and the buckets move and they change and who does what and how it's going to work. So we're really proud of the way it works. We've got some incredible stakeholders, from the teams, the team managers, the drivers. We've always talked about, harnessing the power of the paddock. So, we deal with some really smart people and excited and appreciate their help. From the driver's perspective, if you think of it this way, I think 25 or 6 are coming in on this Thursday, and it's not mandatory. So we just want them to, the ones that can come in, want to come in. We want to get their feedback. We want to get their opinion. So, I think that kind of sums it up in a big way that, that we have that participation in the meeting is not mandatory.
Let's talk about what's new coming here for 2024. We know that around this time last year, there was the announcement IndyCar, its engine partners, and Chevrolet and Honda would be sticking with the tried and true 2.2 liter twin turbo V6 motors. That being done to help them step in and help IndyCar bring hybridization to the series. Chevrolet, its partners at Ilmor Engineering, Honda, with its American base at Honda Performance Development, said, we will dive in. Half will look after the mechanical side, the MGU part, Jay. The other half will look after the supercapacitor, that being HPD, combining. Here we have kind of Hatfields and McCoys deciding to get together and really help IndyCar. Tell us about this process of testing and developing, because we're getting closer to the new season, but testing of this system and locking it down is by no means done. We have a test coming up, what, next week at Homestead on the road course.
Yeah, it's been an amazing thing to watch. Everybody from Honda, Chevrolet, and Ilmor, also our other suppliers too, Extract, Delara. There's lots of people involved in this project. We have weekly calls. There's probably 20 or 30 people on the call, and that's just the scheduled calls, in addition to the other just random calls that happen, throughout the course of the week. It's been amazing to see everybody's abilities and willingness to try to make this work, and the stuff that they're doing to make it work. Again, it's a very unusual technology. It's unique. It's small. It's got a lot of horsepower. It's safe, low voltage. Will fit in the bell housing of the car. So it's different, right? So we've got, I think, some of the smartest people in the world working on it, and we're excited to see this thing play out.
One of the big questions during the off season. I don't know how often you get it. It feels like I get it about 50 times a day. Are we going hybrid next year? Are there any things that would prevent IndyCar from going hybrid? If you listen to the rumor mill, and I know you don't pay any attention to it, one of the things I appreciate about you, there are plenty of folks who will tell me it ain't happening. We're going to get to St. Pete for the first race, and it's going to be the same cars that finish the season in Monterey. What do you have to say about that, Jay?
Well, again, like I just mentioned, there's a lot of really, really smart people that are working really, really hard to get this thing done. And we're very confident that all of us, including our guys, internally here at IndyCar, we're going to get this done.
So we had a pretty cool evolution last year. If we look at the running of the races side, and I always try to delineate for folks that since Penske Entertainment purchased IndyCar, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, there's been a bit of a change in how the hierarchical manner of things, where you look after the competition side and are really focused about the on-track product, the administering of the races more than ever before. One of the cool things that really sprang up last year was the use of the EM marshaling system, really going, we could say, digital, whereas beforehand it was largely analog. Any developments there? Any additions to it or changes to that system, enhancements may be coming for 2024?
Well, it's one of the things we're going to talk to drivers about. So when we go green, the panels weren't necessarily going green as soon as we go green. And there was a lot of conversation about drivers or teams, or not teams, drivers jumping the starts last year. And obviously we review every start. So if the panels are on and the panels go green when we start the race, or when we go, restart the race, it'll be even more clear, when the race is starting. Or restarting. So that's something that could be different with the panels. EM did a phenomenal job integrating the system. They've been a pleasure to deal with. I think this system will just continue to get better and better as we go. Obviously, it's the same system that F1 uses, and it's a really good program. It looks very professional. The course marshals have done a great job of understanding and learning the system. So we're excited to see how that plays out.
Officiating was a topic that I raised to you more than once this past IndyCar season, where there were some excellent races, truly high achievement in officiating. I don't know if we ended the season at my home track at Laguna Seca in the same way. It seemed like a brawl broke out over all those laps. I've jokingly written in the Racer mailbag, said on my podcast, there's some great surfing nearby in Monterey. I wonder if some of the members of race control took the race off and went surfing, because kidding, but it seemed like the referee's whistle could have been blown a lot of times, a lot of penalties handed out. Not so much focusing just on Laguna Seca, Jay, but do you come out of this past season and say, I wonder if we either need to look at things differently, get some new or different or additional people in race control? What's your mindset coming out of last season on where the officials, the referees of IndyCar, performances they did, and any changes for next year you can think of?
Well, I think if you look back at Laguna, I think we had more avoidable contact calls in that race than we've had in any since I've been here anyway. So there were a lot of calls made there. It's funny, a kind of interesting story. So Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC Conference, Southeastern Conference, is a good friend, and he was at the race at Barber this year. And we had him come in race control. And as you know, when we have a review of or look at a replay, the race doesn't stop. So in other sports, when they're reviewing a play or officiating a play, what happens? The game stops. They go to the booth, they go to, go to New York, go to Birmingham, or wherever. So he was fascinated that when we officiate and how we officiate, that we don't stop the game. We can't stop the game. Cars are still going 200 miles an hour. There we go. So, so again, I think like we mentioned at Laguna, we had more avoidable contact calls than I think we had ever in one race. It was amazing not amazing, that's the wrong word, but it's funny. You go into a race weekend and you think, new pavement, it's going to be different. It's going to be lots of grip. There's not a lot of things that are going to happen. And then we have what we had play out at Laguna like we did, which was, I guess, not what we thought was going to happen. But there are some things we're going to talk to the drivers about. One of the things we've, over the last couple of years, if you think of it in 2022, we had like 5,900 on-track passes. This year we had like 7,800 on-track passes. So we want to let the teams race, right? That's always been something we've done. We want to let the races play out. We don't want to over officiate and that type of thing. But one of the things on ovals, if you have a blocking penalty, there's only one call, right? The blocking penalty, if you block, it's a drive. So on road and street courses, we have other options, right? You can give up positions, you can give up multiple positions, that type of thing. So we might, it's one of the things we're talking to drivers about is, do we need to accelerate that penalty that if you block on a road or street course, do we make it just like we do at an oval where you get a big penalty, you get a drive? So we'll see how that plays out.
I know one question a lot of fans have had since the schedule came out, Jay, looking at where we're going back to Milwaukee, which is great. Obviously, hope that is a success. We won't have any ovals, though, before the Indianapolis 500. I know that is not your wish. I don't think anybody at INDYCAR is fond of how things shaped in that direction. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I know you have deep ties from your days in NASCAR with NASCAR itself, ISC, SMI, the folks who run the majority of the tracks, Texas being a Speedway Motorsports track, not something that INDYCAR owns. I know from conversations and background with others that you and the INDYCAR team really tried hard to keep Texas on the schedule. What didn't happen there that needed to? Do you think there's a chance of going back next year or maybe another oval somewhere else prior to the Indianapolis 500?
Yeah, so if you go back to even when we had Phoenix, a few years ago, that was great to have Phoenix before the 500. We've always thought it's important to have an oval before the 500, just for obviously you operate differently on an oval. Phoenix was great because we could do the preseason open test there, have the race before the 500. So there was actually a couple oval opportunities before we got to the 500. The Texas piece, again, we love Texas. I think last year was probably one of the best Texas races we've ever had. And we've worked really hard to, do different things to the car. I think we finally hit really the sweet spot, with this car at Texas last year. So I would say it's more of a pause. I mean, it was really the way the schedule played out, what was going on and the windows that were open, broadcast windows to what others were doing. It just didn't work out for 2024. But again, never say never. We love Texas and great fans, great people, and we could be back there.
Another item that comes up frequently, spoke with Mark Miles yesterday and did a lot of bits about calendar, future, and whatnot. One area Mark and I didn't touch on, which maybe you could help us with. I know that of all the regions INDYCAR goes to, the Northeast, there's a lot of fans there who love INDYCAR and would love for us to announce, name the track, oval, street, course, whatever. Where does getting back to the Northeast rate among the many priorities for you and INDYCAR when you're looking at future schedules?
Well, certainly we appreciate everybody in the Northeast, and it's not for lack of effort to get us back there. I'm sure at some point we will. Obviously, Pocono's been a longtime supporter, great venue. We've had some great racing there. Watkins Glen was really good a few years ago. So it's just one of those things, like I mentioned a minute ago with Texas. There's been different circumstances that have happened that it's not currently worked out. Certainly no intention to not go to the Northeast. We love the Northeast. We understand we need to be there. So we'll see, how that plays out too.
All right, let's go sideways on topics here. had some fun, if that's the term to use, Jay, when it comes to IndyCar drivers and IndyCar teams and their contracts. In 2022, again in 2023, the deal between our reigning champion, Alex Palou, and Arrow McLaren Racing, that lawsuit expected to drag on possibly as long as 18 months, I'm told. It's independent of IndyCar, it has nothing to do with the series or Penske Entertainment. But one thing that came up repeatedly was, well, in Formula One, they have a contracts recognition board. The series itself could intervene, iron things out, get this resolved quickly, and make it a bit of a nothing burger. It's not how IndyCar tends to do things, but what comes to mind when you've seen this play out? There's nothing positive to come from this, right, in terms of publicity. But do you see any opportunities for IndyCar to intervene? Do you have any methods like a contract recognitions board that we don't know about that might be used here to help resolve things?
Well, not really. Obviously, with the way F1 operates or the FIA operates, the teams are part of a franchise kind of type system. Our teams are independent contractors that race with us. So we don't really have a mechanism in place to do that. Could we? I guess we probably could. I mean, obviously, we make the rules. We could come up with rules that state that they have to do that. I don't think, like you mentioned, it's not a great look, obviously, but it's something that's not unusual. It's been going on in motorsports for a long time. Been going on in sports in general for a long time. So, again, we don't intervene. If it got to a certain point where we needed to, we would. I don't think it's to that point yet, though.
Let's talk about car counts, Jay. So last season, big numbers everywhere we went, 27-ish cars, sometimes a few more if the circuits would allow. We're looking at similar, maybe even identical numbers in terms of full-time for next year. Tell me about that. What did you learn last season going to tracks, having to use seemingly every available pit box? Toronto comes to mind as a place where certainly you're constantly trying to work to fit more cars there if possible. What did you learn about running a lot of cars, more open wheel cars than we anticipated, and now having to do that yet again?
Yeah, it's funny. So if you think of in 2016, 17, again, we talked about the 5-year plan. One of our goals was to recruit new teams and owners into IndyCar, right? So the plan has worked in a big way in that regard, which is great. This is a problem. It's a good problem to have, but it is a problem, going forward with the car count the way it's going. Last year we had 27 full-time cars at every event, which was the first time that ever happened in the history of IndyCar. So that shows, I guess, that the plan worked. But we feel good about. We'll have 27 cars back this year. We feel like, and like you mentioned a minute ago, there could be 28 or 29 if possible. There are other venues. So again, it's just something that we have to manage through. It's funny. It sometimes organically plays out, or that last year that there's a couple that will not come back. There's a couple new ones that'll come in. There is right now. There is a lot of interest from new teams still coming in. There's a lot, and we have a meeting with a couple in the next couple of weeks that are legitimate players that would be great, IndyCar teams. So there's still more interest. Part of it is, I guess, managed because of with having the two OEM partners are phenomenal with Chevrolet and Honda, but there is a limit, to what they can do, and I think we're certainly at that limit.
I've mentioned this one to you before as a little bit of a joke, but maybe not. On the topic of growing the series, 10 full-time entrants. Some have downsized by one car or so. Some have gone up by one car to get to that roughly 27 full-timers. Chevy says, look, we're a bit maxed out at 15. Honda, I should say. Chevy as well. They're about set at their number. We get to that 27. Any thoughts about a B series? A Saturday, I don't know if it's an A main or a what, but the goal is for Indy Lights teams. Bill Abel, for example, Abel Motorsports, one of the great stories of the year, Jay, right? Little team, no IndyCar experience, makes it into the Indy 500, knocks out a Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan Racing entry. We want the Bill Abels of the world and the Don Cusicks to be able to go full time, but maybe a full-time place at the IndyCar table isn't available in year 1, year 2. there any value to some of those who might be speaking to you now, say, you know, oh, we can fit in on Sunday, but hey, what if we had something on Saturday, preamble? Is that a crazy idea? Because we don't want to lose folks, but if we don't have space in the main races on Sunday, is there a workaround?
Well, no, I don't. I don't think that's a crazy idea. Kind of think of what we're doing at Thermal, right? For the exhibition kind of all-star race we're having there, where we're having two heat races, right? And there'll be two groups that will qualify the day before, two heat races. The top 6 out of each heat race transfer to the main. I mean, there's things like that you could do, right? So, I mean, you never say never. I mean, again, we're really proud of the participation, the teams that are coming into IndyCar, the interest that's in IndyCar. Again, the plans, it feels like it's worked. So that's a great idea.
First time I've heard those words from your
lips. You heard it from here. You heard it here first.
That's my birthday present and Christmas gift, Frye. I love it. Rounding down here, got about 5 minutes or so left, Jay. Let me rattle off a couple of others. So IndyCar created a job portal, a website folks can go to, knowing that teams have said to you over and over again, boy, we're trying to grow. We need a new engineer, a new mechanic, a new truck driver, whatever it might be. Is there a centralized place you might be able to help with? And IndyCar has done that. Speaking with a friend this morning, said, hey, I have this itch to get back into race engineering, not on the IndyCar level, because that's my job to report on it, but I don't know, maybe Indy NXT. What does that pay? What does a full season engineering role pay, or even a fly-in role? Jay, I was blown away. Like double what I used to make back 20 years ago. There's money available in IndyCar, in Indy NXT, in the USF championships. You speak to that growth, because beyond car counts, you look at the vitality of a series by the people, and whether it's just all old graybeards like myself or a bunch of young men and women in the garages, that's what we're seeing. Can you speak to that side of the growth on the personnel side?
Yeah, well, that's something we've worked hard on, again, with the plan. It's not just quantity, it's quality, right? The quality of the teams that we currently have and the teams that are wanting to come in is spectacular. So again, the job portal, we'd worked for about a year to try to have someone help us do that, where we could try to help the teams come with this portal. We couldn't get anybody to help us figure it out. So Matt Greco, who does a phenomenal job for us here, figured it out on his own. And I know there's been 20-ish people probably hired off it, if not more. So it has worked, and we should probably get that website out there more, because there's teams looking right now for sure.
Why don't we close on this? Again, bit of a left field one, but I've gotten a lot of questions about it. Know that Toronto, the Honda Indy Toronto event, was one of the final items to clear before the IndyCar schedule could be announced. Back on the schedule for next year. Had a lot, Jay, of passionate Canadian fans who I know you hear from all the time on your social media accounts, want to know about the future, because for the documents they've seen and shared, it's a one-year deal. IndyCar is not the promoter. That's Green Savary Race Promotions, but it's caused some concerns. What can you tell us about maintaining IndyCar's place in Canada beyond 2024? Is Toronto where we might do that? Or are you looking at any other places we might go to the Great White North?
We love Toronto. So it's funny, at the pre-race press conference we always have, that always gets asked, and we always come back. So we love Toronto. It's a great city, great people. The racing there's been very good. Sometimes when you do a street races, again, there's a lot of different municipalities and things you have to go through to get the actually event licensed, that type of thing. So that's usually what that is, where it's not, if we wanted to do a long-term deal, it might not be possible. But your annual one-year deals are basically a handshake that you want to go forward for a long time.
Friends, Jay Frye, president of IndyCar, the person who makes S happen and S done, built a really good tribe on the competition side, something you can take pride in for sure, Jay. Thanks as always for supporting this EPARTRADE series during every off season, racer.com, Speed Sport as well. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, everybody.
Well, thank you, Jay. Great session again. thank you again for being with us, since day one, since we had our first Race Industry Week. And we're thanking John Doonan earlier today, as well as Greg from SRO. You were one of the first one to help us build, this wonderful event that's now on the 4th year. And because of you and people like you, we have been able to assemble this incredible lineup of speakers this year. So thank you, Jay. That really means a lot to us. So
registering on EPARTRADE is easy. To start, click on the Join for Free button on the homepage. First, search your company to see if it's already in our database. If you see your company on the list, click on it to select it. Then, choose Claim Company if you are one of the decision makers, an owner, marketing person, or main company contact. Or choose Join Company if you are an employee, and press Continue. If you couldn't find your company in our database, select Register a New Company. On the following page, fill out your name, email, phone number, job title, and choose a secure password. If you chose Register a New Company, you'll need to choose your business type. Select Supplier if you're looking to display products or services and connect with buyers. Choose Racing Business if you're looking to source new parts and connect with suppliers. Choose Race Team if you own or are a member of a professional race team. Then, enter your company name. Please provide a website, Facebook page, or LinkedIn if you have one, and choose to either claim or join the company. You can view and agree to our terms of use here. If you'd like to receive our weekly newsletter, choose Accept. Finally, click Register Now and your registration will be submitted for approval. An email will be sent to your inbox. Please confirm your email address and you will be approved shortly. Welcome to EPARTRADE.